everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. I'm really excited today. We are here to talk about the year of animation in 2019. This is something that we've done on my channel since way back in 2014. Every year, I've gotten a panel together to talk about both the big and the small releases to come out in the year of animation. So I really love getting a chance to think back on all these films. And I have two special guests today on the podcast. First, we have YouTuber Paleostino is here, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem. There's a lot to talk about for the animation this year. Are we talking about cartoons too, or just movies?
Just movies, because we had so many.
Okay.
And I've actually thought about maybe doing a separate one for the television animation, especially because you had things like you had so many movies based on television shows, which were interesting this year.
Because I realized that there were a lot of shows that came out this year that were really good. I was surprised. I was like, oh, there's a lot of like TV that was good for animation.
Yeah, and you had My Little Pony finale and a bunch of other stuff like that. So that's something I definitely will consider doing. But why don't you introduce yourself real quick to our audience?
So I'm Paleosteno. I have a YouTube channel on YouTube, also Paleosteno, and I do podcasts and reviews and talk about animation a lot.
Very good. Great. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Then our second guest is Cameron Ward is here. And why don't you introduce this is your first time on the podcast. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello there. My name's Cameron Ward. I am a writer. I write written reviews. I started back in 2008, starting with video games. And then back in 2015, I started to write about animation. And I've been doing that ever since. I have a website called camseyeview.biz, and I like to my written review series is called The Other Side of Animation. I like to look at animated films that are not from Disney and Pixar. Not that I have anything against them, but it's just like there's so much cool stuff out there, and it's just vibrant and creative, and that's what I like to cover.
Yeah, very good. Great. And I'll have links for all of your content in the description section so people should definitely check it out. First one we're going to talk about is Dragonballz Super Broly, and this got a pretty big theatrical rollout. I think it did much better than they expected, and there were a ton of anime series movies this year, and we're all day if we talk about all of them, but I thought this was the best one to kind of talk about because I think it got the biggest rollout, and it did pretty well. So Pele, did you see this?
Unfortunately I didn't. I know my friend Jax, he's like a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, and he's been like sort of like okay on Super, but he said that like Dragon Ball Super Broly is like one of the best films that they've made of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So because he said he loved it, so I'll have to watch it at some point.
Yeah.
I might watch it at the New Year's party that I see him at.
Yeah, Cameron, what did you think of this?
Well, I've been a fan of Dragon Ball since like the old one, or like Z, I guess. And I haven't watched Super, so I just kind of like I like going into these movies like, okay, if I haven't seen the new show or something, would I like it? Even though it would probably be smarter if I did. And a lot of the times with these franchise films, I tend to think they just look like slightly better episodes, and then they have like plot stuff that happens in the movie that could have been used in the show, and they never bring it up. So that I always kind of have like a mixed, like conflicting thoughts about them. But it was Broly. Man, it looks great, and it feels theatrical. Like they really get you into the action. Like you feel like the imposing threat of Broly when he's fighting like Vegeta and Goku. Like they really went all out with this. Like the animation looks great, the fights are fantastic. it's slightly ruined by the fact because of the guy who plays Broly. And it's hard for me to go back to that unless they re-release it and recast Broly because they've done that with Dragon Ball Z Fighters, where they got Johnny Young Bosch to play him. But it was like a film that should be in a theater and should be seen on like the biggest screen you can.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm not super familiar. With the I know what Dragon Ball Z is, but I'm not somebody who's watched the show. But I felt like I was able to get it and understand it. And I liked how just sort of sniveling, and sometimes I get tired of these villains that we have these days where they're all sort of these surprise villains. And he was just like, just the worst, like bad guy, like just all evil. And I liked that sometimes. And so I enjoyed it. I definitely would go smile worthy on it.
Yeah, smile worthy for me.
Yeah. Okay. Then we had How to Train Your Dragon: Hidden World. And so this movie I thought was a sweet finale for this trilogy. I liked the message. I wasn't as like insane about the second one as it seems like a lot of people were. I felt like it had some issues, but this I just thought was so beautiful, and I really did like this sort of step for Toothless and Hiccup, and the ending really got to me. I don't think that the humor really worked all that well, especially that one character who was very annoying.
Yeah.
And so that was like the main doc I had against it. And a lot of people complained about the villain. That was fine for me. But yeah, it was the humor wasn't my favorite. But Pela, what do you think of this ending to Train Your Dragon?
That was one of my complaints about the villain, was kind of like to me. But I agree with that. I think it's like T.J. Miller's character in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like he keeps like hitting on Hiccup's mom.
Oh no, that's Jonah Hill's character who was
Jonah Hill's character. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. T.J. Miller character is one of the twins.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was like really weird.
Yeah. There was also that female character that got that was the prisoner and was just making all those jokes.
Yeah, Kristen Wiig's character.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of that. It was very annoying.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But overall, I thought it was a sweet movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it was like a good like ending to the trilogy. Especially with the very end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a good ending. I thought it was pretty good, but yeah, Jonah Hill's character really dragged that part down. Like, oh, it was so annoying. It was creepy, and it was like Hiccup was kind of oblivious or just chose to ignore him because he knew he was just, all talk, no bite and such.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times what I find great about DreamWorks films are all like the little character moments, and there was just some great moments. And that's kind of what I think about DreamWorks in general, and I think Cell Specs has talked about this also, where it's all like the overall arching story, it's okay, but then all the little moments make it like raise it up and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's kind of similar to Toy Story 4 in the sense that this relationship kind of changes, and you have this sort of goodbye at the end. And I thought that really worked with like I said, Toothless and Hiccup. And I did think it was so beautiful when they're in that cave. And everything's sort of not for kind of fluorescent in color. That was really cool.
Yeah, when DreamWorks wants to flaunt their animation, they can really flaunt it.
Yeah. So I definitely would say smile worthy on this one.
It's a low smiley for me, but I still loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, smile worthy.
Yeah. Okay, then we had Lego Movie, the second part, and this movie I saw during the week of one of the weeks of Sundance. So it did get it was sort of madness for me. And I actually haven't watched it again, which maybe says something about it, but I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was good. I liked the music. I thought the story was pretty clever. And but I thought that the real life kind of dynamic didn't work as well as it did in the first one. But it was a pretty nice message for kids about playing with your siblings and being nice. I mean, that's a good message for little kids. It just wasn't quite as powerful maybe to adults as the first movie's message. But you really loved this one, Paleo.
Yeah, I love all the Lego movies, even Ninjago to a degree. But I love how they made it into more of a musical this time around. A lot of the songs are really fun. And the real life dynamic, I think, like with that, with the first movie, it was just like a sudden surprise that happened.
Right.
With this, they take it in a bit more, but I really like the aspect of the character of the boy character where he's sort of growing up a bit and he wants to be a bit more mature, and that's sort of the theme throughout the movie about maturity. And like for being kids, like you don't have to mature that fast. Because he was like talking about like a bunch of like serious things, and he was trying to do a time travel plot. I thought that was really funny. And I love Queen Whatever. She's great. That's one of a really fun character with the way she moves and everything. How she's just made of a bunch of these random pieces.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
So I love the movie.
Yeah, I really loved Lego Movie Part 2, and I mean, it was always going to have that disadvantage of not being the first one and not having that lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a very good movie for all things considered. Like, I think they took the story in an interesting direction. I kind of saw themes of like toxic masculinity also with with the lead and then the villain. And yeah, I was surprised by the music, and I wasn't going to be like, oh no, it's all bad. No, I downloaded the album onto my phone like right after I saw the movie. Like it's all
I love that credit song too. That by Beck. That's great.
Yeah, and I still just loved all of the jokes, and I'm really bummed that it did not do better, but I do think Warner Brothers ran that franchise into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I think with a lot of people, they blame Ninjago.
Yeah.
I could see that, yeah.
They're not going to be doing any more, so that was pretty crazy news.
Yeah, we'll have to see if Universal buys the rights and then see what happens with them.
Come on, Lego Jurassic Park.
Oh, that would be cool. I'd watch that all day.
I would watch that.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe we should talk about that just briefly. It's been a pretty bad year at the box office for animation, except for, I mean, Dragon did pretty good, and then Toy Story 4, of course, did great, and Frozen too. But there's been a lot of bombs, and do you have any? Do you have any insight, Paleo, on why you think that's been the case?
I think it's just that like I feel like a lot of these films had really bad advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, because there's certain films where I'm like, I haven't seen the ads for it anywhere. Like especially for stuff like Wonder Park and Missing Link, which we'll talk about soon. Because I didn't see stuff for that like anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the advertising they did have, honestly, didn't look all that appealing. And so even if the movie was actually good, and there were a lot of projects that they were greenlit that it was kind of like, why did they greenlit that? Like who was really asking for that? Even if the movie ended up being a lot better than we all thought. Like we'll talk about the Angry Birds movie. Angry Birds 2, I don't think anybody was really asking for that. And so when it comes out, it just kind of, nobody's really that inclined to see it.
Yeah, I think I agree with Paleo. I think a lot of it was bad marketing, and it was also odd. Like Abominable had a trailer that played in theaters, like nowhere else.
Yeah.
And then they released a pretty good, like a decent trailer. Not fond of the blueberry butt joke, but outside of that, it was a pretty decent trailer, but it was like odd. And some of it was understandable. Like Playmobil was never going to have a big budget after its failure to launch, like release. And but yeah, I agree. It was all down to bad marketing.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so then we are we all smile worthy on Lego then?
Yeah, smile.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Then we have Wonder Park, and so this thing, it didn't have a director. I mean, this thing went through development hell. This was a nightmare. I didn't think it was as bad as everybody else. I thought that it had some sweet ideas about this. There were some imaginative sequences, some imaginative ideas. I thought the animation was pretty, at least in a lot of it. It was pretty. I wasn't miserable watching it, but I certainly didn't go fresh on it. It's just too messy, and and the story is kind of strange. But I don't know, Cameron, what did you think of this one?
Well, for a while, I thought this was going to be my choice for the worst animated film, and we'll get to the one that topped it later. I did not like it, and it was mostly because it cowered away from its themes, and it wanted to be like a Monster Calls or I Kill Giants,
Right.
but it didn't commit to what it was trying to do, because you could tell that there was a lot of symbolism and such, and themes of like getting over grief and how grief is and depression is still going to be there. But then it's just like I found like a weird lack of imagination with some of the things, like the animal characters. When you finally get to meet them, they look like real animals, and they don't look all that interesting. You would think with a film about imagination, like I thought they should have made the animals look like the stuffed animals that the girl had in her room. But yeah, I mean, I didn't like it, but like I said, it was just because I wish it committed.
And it's so weird. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of a movie not having a director.
Yeah, there was a lot of behind the scenes fiascos, and if you go by IMDb, it says there were like 3 different people behind it, but no, this would be the first time where an animated film, or at least as far as I know, an animated film went into theaters without a director credit.
Yeah. Like it says on the wiki here, it says it was originally directed by Dylan Brown, but then he was fired.
Yeah.
So they just didn't include a director's credit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, spoiler alert, this is a frown for me.
Yeah, me too. What did you think, Paleo?
Yeah, it's weird because like when I first watched it, I was like okay on it, but then I thought more about it. I was like, no, like it's because when I first started watching the movie, and they introduced those themes of loss and everything, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And then like the movie goes on, and I'm thinking, oh, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I kind of felt like it was sort of in as far as the themes of loss and things, it was almost like it was trying to be something like a Totoro or something that can have these deeper themes, but it just was too messy that it couldn't obviously it
Yeah.
couldn't do what they do. So yeah, frown worthy for me as well on
Yeah.
Wonder Park.
They say darkness more times than they say darkness in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and don't forget, there's apparently a TV series that's still coming out about.
Yeah.
yeah, that'll
It's weird how they had a lot of those like Nickelodeon movies that they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna make this and then a series for it
Yeah, and
without seeing if it works first.
yeah, no, I've seen TV ads for it, but it's like this thing's gonna die on the vine. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and I'm sorry for the people who had to work on it because it's like you could tell that the whole production was troubled.
Yeah. So then we get to Missing Link, and this is when I have my unpopular opinion, because the animation is beautiful. They have the incredible craftsmanship at Leica, and I've given fresh to every single one of their movies except for this one. And I
No.
I had big problems with this movie. I just from the very beginning, even in the advertisements, I did not like the character designs. And that was something I just couldn't get over. I really disliked the Hugh Jackman character's just triangle nose. I thought it looked so ugly. And then I really disliked the sort of pig nose on Susan. I don't know, I thought they made their characters really ugly. And I guess you could say that's part of the story, but I don't know. I just didn't like it. I didn't care for the whole visual aesthetic of the movie even though I recognized that it was very well done, it was not my taste. And then I just didn't think the story was that good. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think it was really that original, especially when they get to the Yeti village. I just thought that was all so underwhelming. And I was like, they had to bring Emma Thompson in for this? Like, what? And I don't know. I just didn't really like it. And I know everybody else seems to love it, but I thought I just didn't like the character design. It had a nice message as far as accepting, Susan and everything. And there's just been so many Yeti movies, and this is definitely my least of all these Yeti movies. So that's my unpopular opinion this year is I was not a fan. I mean, I wish it had done better just because I like Leica, but I don't know. It didn't work for me.
I really loved it, and I perfectly get why someone wouldn't like it. Like I think with they have such a distinct vibe to them, and to see them do like a travel comedy, I can see that as being kind of like a step down. Even though I understand why they did it because it was like, I mean, nobody's seen their movies in theaters, and that's so frustrating.
It felt like them kind of trying to ape Aardman to me almost. Like it didn't even feel like a Leica movie. And I wasn't a big fan of Aardman's movie last year, so I don't know. I'm just being difficult, I guess.
Yeah, no, I liked the comedy. I found myself laughing a lot. But then again, I also saw it twice in theaters, like on the same day, because I wanted to support it so much. And I understand the issue of just like, oh, we finally get to the Yetis and it's a little underwhelming. I think that's kind of the point. Like theme wise to the story, it's like Susan finally gets there and they're just snobby and elitist, just like the club that Hugh Jackman's character wants to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was an interesting comparison there.
Yeah, and I still get a huge laugh out of the scene where she's like, "Stop those people who don't want to be here and keep them here." and I can understand some people having like slight issues with the Susan reveal, even though like I don't think there was any ill intent behind it, but I understand if people will be like, "Oh, okay, what?" And I found the villains to be weak. Like they were just kind of like snobby elitists. And
yeah.
I mean that's what I liked about films. Their villains were so like more to them than like Disney villains and DreamWorks villains, and it's just like I'm just so sad this thing just did not do well in theaters. I wish it did better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's out of the Yeti and like Sasquatch films, I think this one's probably my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's it's something I wasn't expecting from like a sort of an adventure film.
Yeah.
And there are certain sequences in the movie that I'm like, wow, how did you do that? Like when they're on the boat and like it's all moving around and everything, I was like, wow, must have taken like forever, like to get it just right to make it look like as good as it does.
Yeah. There's a lot of great sequences in that, and it's just such a visual marvel. And I liked the humor. Like I like the Aardman Leica style humor where it's a little underplayed, like when they're walking into town and Hugh Jackman's character is talking to Susan, and he's talking about like, oh, we got to go meet Zoe Saldana's character, and Susan's just like, oh, so you two know each other, and Hugh Jackman's like, well, yeah, you can say that again. Okay, so you two know each other. And,
yeah.
But I understand if it never gelled with anyone. I think it did have some pretty bad marketing also, and not wide release marketing, even though this was obviously meant to be for a more universal crowd than like Leica's other films, where I'd say they're more made for slightly older kids and families and such.
Yeah, I mean, I guess certain sequences, like the whole when they're breaking into her house, and that's supposed to be funny, and I didn't think it was funny, or like the bar fight scene, which went on really long, and I didn't think it was particularly funny. And I don't know, I don't know. So you both are smile worthy on it.
Yeah, smile worthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
get it. Like, don't feel
Yeah.
bad about not liking it as much. So yeah, anyone who listens to this, do not dunk on people who do not agree with you.
Yeah. So then we're talking about ugly dolls, and I actually now this can make me sound terrible because I actually went fresh on this. I thought it was cute. I thought the character design were cute and cuddly, and I mean I was thinking of this for like really little kids, that they would like it, and that's who I felt like it was made for. I didn't like the villain at all. But I thought that the songs were cute and kind of catchy, and I could see something like this playing on like a Disney Junior type of show, and then everybody else hated it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was for very little kids, and so that was kind of, I mean, it is a message that we've seen a lot of times, but I don't know. I maybe I was just in a good mood that day. I don't know.
I didn't hate it, but honestly, I forgot it came out this year.
Yeah.
Like it was just forgettable to me.
Yeah.
It came and went fast, and this was another one that had a troubled production because it started out in it was going to be made by Illumination, and it was going to have the original creators of the Ugly
Yeah, that's right.
And then it went to STX because I think the guy who made STX used to work for Universal, and then took that with it. And then supposedly, and we don't know until like they can actually talk about this stuff, that STX wanted a big family hit and they rushed it out. And
yeah,
not a lot of normal animation fans are probably going to notice, but I noticed a few areas where it was just like, okay, they didn't have time to stop someone look like they were sliding across the ground when they were running, or like the backgrounds to the songs were all just kind of like a screensaver because
yeah, that was
I don't hate this movie. I just found it kind of like forgettable. And one criticism I never got was like people were like, oh well, they're not that ugly, and it's just like they look like the toys. This is like a perfect adaptation for this kind of thing. They look like they do, and I like the little village that they do like that they have all the ugly dolls in. Wasn't fond of the villain, and then there was just some world building stuff that I know most people won't care about, but I kind of found confusing about how it all worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Also, Ugly Dolls did that thing with this advertising that I absolutely hate with animated movies, where they do like boom, 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 of all the celebrity voice actors. I'm like,
Yeah, I
can
hate
you
that.
not do that? Kids don't care.
Right.
I mean, I get it. It's for the adults who are going to take the
Yeah.
tickets. They're the ones paying the tickets, of course. But no, this one definitely leaned too much into its celebrities. Even though I found
Yeah.
Kelly, the one who played the lead,
Kelly
and
Clarkson.
Yeah, Kelly Clarkson was fine.
Clarkson was good, and
But I despise Pitbull. Like I don't like him in anything.
no, I felt like they were underutilized. Like I felt like it really the core failing of Ugly Dolls for me was the writing. It wasn't strong, and it felt very repetitive. They're like, "Oh no, we're not good enough," and then it's like, "Okay, but you are good enough," and they're like, "Yeah, we are," and then it goes like clockwork.
Yeah.
Well, and I hope that Kelly Asbury isn't too hurt by it because
Oh God, I feel bad for him.
I think he's a good director, and I thought that Smurfs: The Lost Village was way underrated. I liked it way
Oh,
more
yeah,
than most.
definitely.
That was a pretty okay movie. Like
It was,
like,
and
I don't blame him. Don't blame him for this. He apparently came on and was just like, okay, we don't have a lot of time. Let's just do the best that we can.
yeah, he said in the interview, there was an interview with Rotoscopers, and where he said, yeah, they had about 18 months to get it from start to when he got brought on to releasing it. So it was pretty fast. And but yeah, I thought that Smurfs: Lost Village was so pretty and just these beautiful sequences. And I don't know, I just liked it way better than most people seem like.
Yeah,
And so he's a good director, even if he's had 2 flops in a row.
yeah. I think he'll be fine. I hope he gets other work. He's a good director.
Yeah.
Don't judge him by these 2 movies. And
Yeah.
can't wait for that Ugly Dolls animated series that's not going to come out.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I'll stick with my smile worthy. Like I said, I think for little kids, I think they'll like it.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah.
super harmless. There's nothing like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it like a very soft frown.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. All right. So then we have Penguin Highway. So this was one of our first animes of the year, and this I kind of thought of it as it's sort of like an anime version of Stranger Things. You know, where there's this kid that's kind of looking into all these strange phenomenons, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very creative, and I loved the animation. There was the I kind of wish they had done a young girl like 11 in Stranger Things, as opposed to this full grown up woman. That was a little weird, a little awkward, especially his fascination with her breasts. That was weird.
I can kind of explain that, but finish up. Sorry.
No, but overall, I really enjoyed it. It was very creative. It was a new kind of sci-fi story, and so definitely smile worthy for me on Penguin Highway. Yeah.
I saw this one last year at Animation is Film, and just quick plug: if anyone like animation lovers want to see a lot of these foreign animated features before they come out in the U.S., Animation is Film has been happening for the past few years in Hollywood, and it's just a delight. And
I want to see it.
Animation.
Yeah.
I loved Penguin Highway. It was a little too long, I think, but it was a very heartfelt coming of age story. And yeah, it's a little weird that like this story has like a boy that's like a little more obsessed with the female form. But I think it's because he's hitting puberty, and the mysterious woman in the film, is like symbolic of just like his. I think just like it's a puberty thing, and the director had a small video when we first saw it, and he said like, I designed this woman to appeal to young boys, Japanese boys, and but I found it funny and touching, and I definitely recommend it. It's been released on Blu-ray now by 11 Arts, so I say pick it up. It's a smiley for me.
Yeah. Did you get to see this one, Paleo?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see a lot of anime this year in theaters at all. But Penguin Highway, I've seen trailers of, and it's definitely something that I want to watch.
Yeah. It was really good.
Yeah.
And then another anime that came out this year that I loved is called Promare.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this movie, the animation is so stunning. It is, I wouldn't recommend it for somebody with like sensory issues because it is a lot coming at the screen. But I loved the geometric style. It was stunning with combined with the music. I thought it worked so well and was so different than anything else I've ever seen. And I thought the story was very good. I liked this dynamic of the Burnish, and that people are taught to hate the Burnish, but there's once they actually get to know them. And I thought the story was very layered, very well done, and just the animation was stunning. This is one of my top 10 just in general favorite movies of the year. I really loved it. So definitely smile worthy for me.
Yeah, this was a great one, and it's so earnest in its execution, and that's what I love about Studio Trigger. They are so like we want to make this cool firefighting action movie, and we're just going to go all out with it. And I was there during one of the Fathom events, and it was just one of those that you had to see with a full theater, and everyone was just roaring with laughter, with joy, and it's just so good. It's like 5 smileys for me. It was just fun.
Yeah.
It's one I definitely need to watch soon, because Studio Trigger stuff is always like really amazing.
Yeah, this is my first time seeing anything from them, and I was very impressed. It was really good.
Yeah, like you said, the story was a lot deeper than you would think, because I could see someone watching the trailer and being like, "Oh, this looks very style over substance," but it's not, and I find that very admirable. That Studio Trigger wanted to have a little more story with their work. So.
Well, and they take you to some pretty low places. I don't want to give spoilers, but there's times where it's feeling pretty desperate for our heroes and everything. So it was really good. All right, then The Secret Life of Pets 2. And this is an interesting one because first of all, I have quite a bit of nostalgia for the first Secret Life of Pets, because it was the first time that I ever got to go on Rotoscoper's podcast. And so that was very exciting for me. And I think the first one is fine. It's harmless. I enjoy it. The second one, I liked it too. I thought it was very episodic. It's like kind of like 3 episodes of a television show, which I was fine with. But I liked Gigi or learning. I liked the Jenny Slate dog. It's Gigi, right? Yeah.
Gigi.
Yeah, anyway, I liked her learning how to be a cat. That was cute. I liked that story. And I liked the story with Max, I think. I forget the names.
Yeah,
but Max learning how to be a tougher dog. It was cute. And the middle one I didn't like, the one with the tiger.
Snowball.
Yeah, that part I didn't like. But I liked it. I gave it fresh. So it was smiling to me. I thought it was cute. It's not great, but it was fine for me. What did you think, Paleo, about this one?
Well, I have a complicated relationship with Illumination.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pets 2, I don't know. I didn't really like the whole sort of like episodic thing that it did. With it feeling sort of like episodes of a sitcom.
Yeah.
Where it didn't have time to like breathe with the especially the part with Max and him, because like from the trailers you would think that would be like the main thing throughout the movie.
Marketing.
But they sort of do all come together in the end. but I don't think it's as good as the first one at all.
No.
No, I don't hate Illumination as much as like people just hate them to the bone and such. I find that their biggest weakness is that they lack ambition, and it's like they had a perfectly good story idea with Max overcoming his fears, and I liked his chemistry with Rooster, the Harrison Ford dog, and I think they could have really made a movie about that. But
Yeah, I
then,
think my main problem is that Illumination's films a lot of times just feel like a product to me rather than a movie.
Yeah.
like I said, they lack ambition, and that's kind of like how I feel about a lot of their films because they always have like an interesting setup, but they don't go anywhere with it, and that's how I felt about like the Grinch and the Despicable Me films. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not like they're the worst thing since I don't know ever. And this one's harmless. I like Patton Oswalt as a new voice for Max, and I loved the cat lady apartment. And
Yeah, that was fun.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not a huge Illumination fan, but partly because I find the minions so annoying. I do not like them. But I guess Sing and Secret Life of Pets, I much prefer over.
Yeah, I think the first one was better too. So.
Yeah. So all right. Then we had an indie that I just got to watch yesterday called Funan, and this was so beautiful. It was devastating. It's a story about the
1970s Cambodia massacre.
yeah. And these people get forced to this. Basically, it's a communal farm, but it's basically a concentration camp for them, and they get separated in the madness from their son, and it was devastating. And I thought in the right kind of ways. It was beautifully animated. This is if I hadn't already filmed my video, this would be in my top of the year. I thought this was excellent. So you saw it last year, you were saying?
Yeah, I saw this one last year, and if Mariah wasn't there, this would have been my favorite. And this was my favorite animated film of the year. It's so powerful. It's so just jaw-droppingly gorgeous and emotional, and it's out right now by G Kids.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you can rent it now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to have a lot of chance at the Oscars. I think it kind of got buried by Weathering with You, but I highly recommend it. It's touching, and the director was he was adorable at the festival. He was very shy, and like I said, just highly recommend it. Great movie.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be shocked if it seems like usually there's one or two of the G Kids movies that sneaks in to the nominations, and if this I could picture this one being the one that people are like, what is that? And they think, how could that get nominated? But no, it would totally deserve it if it did, because it's a really good movie. And I was talking to my co-host Stanford, my friend, and we're going to do this for our obscure animation episode in January because I was so impressed by it. So people that are listeners to the podcast can look forward to diving deep into it. And
I have a written review of it on my website.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put a link down to that.
I can go to that one also. So.
All right. So.
Paleo, did you get to see this one?
No. Like I said, I wasn't able to watch a lot of the indie or anime films that came out this year.
That's a bummer. I love G Kids. I wish they had a better distribution system because I just think everyone should see their films. Not all of them are family friendly, but everyone should have a chance to see this before it hits on demand. So.
Yeah, this one is just excellent. It's really good. Okay, then we had Toy Story 4, and I know there was some mixed feelings about it, but I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite movies of the year. I thought that it was such a great way to finish off Woody's story, and I didn't realize until I saw it how much I needed that. because I feel like Toy Story 3, I love the ending, but it really is a great ending for Andy. And the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? These toys are kind of in this continual cycle of loving these children and then getting abandoned and forgotten about, and then loving and being forgotten about. And that's kind of because evidently in this world, the toys don't die. They just keep living and living and living. And that's kind of a terrible life when you think about it. And the way I kind of, I thought about the ending and the fact that now he's in a place that is this kind of happy place where he can be autonomous. He doesn't have that, he's not out of the cycle. And I thought that was so nice. And I really liked how Gabby wasn't like the surprise villain that I expected her to be. I thought that her story ended so well. I thought the movie was really funny. I thought it was beautifully animated. Yeah, sure, they don't use all the characters that well, but this was about Woody's journey, and it really meant a lot to me. It's a character that I have loved for so many years, and for him to have this this goodbye really meant a lot to me, and I loved it. I thought it was really great. What do you think of it, Paleo?
So yeah, other than twist villains, Disney's starting to do this thing where a character will go off to do their own thing or be in a separate place, because we've had it 3 times now, like in a row. Yeah, because last year it was Vanellope from Ralph Breaks the Internet going to live in that other video game.
That's true.
And then with Elsa in Frozen 2.
Yeah.
And
That's
with
true.
those two, it didn't feel as earned, because like we've only seen them in 1 movie. With Woody, it's like, well, we've seen him in 3 movies and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, it makes
sense. With Toy Story 4, I think it's good. It's like one of their better sequels, I think. But I guess I'm still like on the fact that I still really like the ending of Toy Story 3. And also, if you've ever seen the specials, Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story Time Forgot, I feel like those are like better sort of like continuations of like the just antics that the toys get into, of being Bonnie's toys. But I still do think Toy Story 4 is like a really good movie. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just still denying that Woody's gone. But I do really enjoy the Forky shorts that have been coming out.
Oh my gosh.
I need to see it.
So, I love Forky, and I loved Woody being like the dad of Forky. That was so fun.
Yeah,
it was so well done.
Forky was a surprise because I know from reactions from the trailers, like I would see kids and I'd see parents be like, "Oh no, is this character going to be obnoxious?" And no, it's the power of Pixar. They know how to use their characters. Like you said, Gabby was just a great quote unquote villain, and there are some pretty mature themes about this, because it's just like Woody has his one ideal, and then when he reunites with Bonnie, it's Bonnie, right?
Yeah.
And she has this other ideal, and it's just kind of like, I love seeing the two.
Oh, you mean Bo Peep?
Bo Peep, yeah.
Oh,
Bonnie's the kid.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. And I like seeing Bo Peep and Woody get together and just kind of bounce off of one another. And the movie was really funny. Like, really had some of the better visual jokes. And, of course, Key and Peele as the carnival toys were great. I mean, those.
Oh yeah, that joke with them like explaining how they were going to get the key.
Oh God.
Like, yeah.
that was the best joke of the movie. And I mean, like, it was kind of a bummer. Buzz kind of regressed a little in terms of story, but I liked the idea of him kind of like finding his own beliefs also, even though he was underdeveloped throughout the movie. And I understand like the hesitation for people to be like, I don't know, I like Toy Story 3 how it ended, but I think it was like a good send off for
Yeah.
Woody, and that the ending where Woody's about to go back with Buzz to the RV and such, you see him just kind of have a mental breakdown a little, like she's gone, and it's just like that hit me like way harder, and like I'm 30, I I was about to cry, so
Yeah. Yeah. It was really good. There was White Snake, and this is some of the most beautiful CG animation that I've seen. I thought it was gorgeous. I did get a chance to interview the director for Rotoscopers, and that was a really cool experience. But yeah, I thought some of the characters were a little grating, to be frank. And the story wasn't like the best, but I just the animation was so beautiful that I really enjoyed watching it. So I would give it smile worthy.
yeah.
Cameron, I know you got to see this.
if basically if we talk about an indie animated film, I probably saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw this one back at Animation is Film this year, and I also got to talk to the director, and um, it's great. And this is such a good film to show off what Chinese animation has coming out because, and this was a good year for it also because we had like number 7 Cherry Lane, the hugely successful Neza, and then Whitesnake, which I think is the best one. And like it's just cool to see an action film again, like on the big screen, because it seems like a lot of US animation doesn't like to have action unless it's like a Kung Fu Panda where it has to be with jokes and such. And it's I liked the romance between the characters. Some parts of the story I agree were like a little rushed, but I think it's great. And G Kids is bringing this one out, and it will be available in February.
Yeah. People should definitely catch up to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we had another indie called Bunuel in the Labyrinth of the Turtles. And I liked the concept of this movie. I thought that the whole idea of them kind of following this famous documentarian, famous director, and recreating the different, following him as he makes this documentary, and then recreating, they show the scene from the real movie and then show the animated scene. That was really cool. And I don't know, I found it a little bit repetitive. That it's kind of the same kind of bad behavior on the part of this Bunuel. And he, would throw a fit or be frustrating, and this frustrated artist or whatever. And then there would be some kind of resolution, and then there would be another fit. And then, I don't know. I think maybe I would like it better if I was more familiar with Bunuel. Honestly, the only way that I remembered him, that I knew him, which is terrible on my part, is he's one of the surrealists in Midnight in Paris. He's in there.
That makes sense.
So I'm not very familiar with him, but I certainly would go fresh on it. It's so well animated and creative, but it's not one of my favorites. But I know, Cameron, you really love this movie.
Yeah, this is my second favorite animated film of the year, and I perfectly get it. Louise Bunuel is a frustrating character to follow, and I think that's partially the point. But I get it, like because it is like there are good parts to him, like there are good sides to him, and they show that. And but he's also frustrating because, like, for anyone who doesn't know about this movie, it's about Louise Bunuel, who is this surrealist filmmaker back in the 30s or 20s, and he basically got blacklisted in France, and nobody would give him money to make a film. And his friend Ramon promised him that, hey, if I win the lottery, I will help fund this movie that you want to make. And like, and lo and behold, Ramon wins the lottery, and they go off to this very poor part of Spain, to film, and Luis wants to treat it like this over the top, like parody commentary documentary, while everyone else is just like, we could use this opportunity to help these people. And uh, it's like a personal, like, self identity story for Bunuel to like kind of let go of his past and to let go of the anger that he's held on. And it just hit me hard, and I love it. I understand your frustrations with it because it is a lot more graphic and a little more irritating than I remembered because I saw this last year. But I highly recommend it, and I got to see to meet the director, and he was very nice.
Yeah. All right. So then we have we have the movie that Disney doesn't want to admit is animated. We have The Lion King, and they actually sent out this whole press release to all of us before going to the screening that just a reminder, no animals were harmed in the making of this movie, and that was the most ridiculous thing. Yeah. So yeah, I liked Jungle Book. I thought that it had some interesting ideas and made some interesting changes to the story, and I thought it stood on its own as a adaptation of the book, as opposed to just being this shot-for-shot remake of the original movie. And this, so I was hopeful that there would be something interesting, that Jon Favreau would. But this movie was so bland, and it was so boring. Like the only things that we got that were different at all was like the fur floating through the air. Like, what? I just couldn't believe that with all of that talent of that voice cast and all of this, that they were so safe and bland. Maybe I should have, because these live action remakes, but oh my gosh. And it just, seeing these realistic looking, the whole concept of the film was fundamentally flawed, because you can't have realistic animals dancing and singing. It looks stupid, and it just made everything that had emotion in the original film just fall flat. And so yeah, this was a big miss for me. Definitely frown worthy. Paleo, I know you didn't even like Jungle Book.
Yeah, I haven't really liked any of the live action remakes except for probably Pete's Dragon.
Yeah.
Well, Lion King, like, yeah, it's definitely what you said, where it looks stupid with the animals singing and everything.
Yeah.
Where, like, as soon as the first musical number comes up of I Just Want to Be King, I was like, the difference is just jarring.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like comparing the two movies. Like, one has color,
Yeah.
the other one doesn't.
Yeah. No, this one's really frustrating because I like Jon Favreau as a director, and it was like, I don't hate this as much as everyone else, but I do not care for it. And that is a problem. It's like the photorealistic movements and the animals. That's cool. That's really cool looking. But yeah, then you're kind of stuck with that, because if you try to emote them like cartoons, it's going to look creepy. And
yeah, I think
they just didn't do enough with the story, and it somehow ends up being 30 minutes longer than the original, and it's just
so weird.
This is the stuff that's frustrating about Disney. They can do so much. They have so much talent.
That's what I didn't like about Aladdin, how they made it longer, yet they cut out a lot.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah. And Jafar was bad as a villain.
No.
Oh yeah, Jafar was like terrible in that. But for the Lion King, and with the thing is, like, the technology is impressive, but it was like, you should do something different with it, rather than making the same movie. I think that was my frustration with the Jungle Book, is that they were trying to do things differently, but not different enough. And that was my frustration with the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I wish they did something different. And I like the cast for this one a little more than the 90s film. Like, if I could, I would swap out certain actors from the original with this one. But yeah, I really did not like that they took out the Rafiki Simba sequence, where like the past can hurt and
Yeah,
such.
I know it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's like it's the emotional core of the movie, and they took it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
but,
and I don't know, just all the like John Favreau had said, oh, it's not a shot for shot remake, and how could he say that? How could he say that? I mean,
yeah, there are a few seconds of different footage and dialogue,
but
that's
as far as if you were going to plot it out, if you were making like a timeline of this happens, this happens, this happens, it would
it's the
be
same.
exactly the same. Like
It's
the
the same
only
without
all
the
the
added charm.
different stuff is all completely just extras. It's not like if I'm seeing a song, the Beyonce song as they're walking, like that's still the same plot. And I don't know, it was a big miss for me for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a 3 out of 5 stars for me. Like,
Oh,
the stack is
yeah.
still really cool, but everything else is just meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because like John Favreau actually did like something really good this year with Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then we have Weathering with You, which I've been pumping a lot on my channel. I did 2 trailer reactions. Because I loved Your Name so much. I can't really talk about it yet because we're still embargoed, but I'll just read my social media response because we were allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So I just said, the animation is stunning and Makoto Shinkai has created some powerful moments and themes, but I don't think the film as a whole lives up to his normal quality. I feel kind of disappointed if I'm honest, but we'll see how it sits with me. So that's all I'll say. You got to see it, Cameron.
Yeah, it was the opening film for Animation is Film, and I really loved it. Like I said earlier before the podcast started, I have kind of a mixed, conflicted feelings about Makoto Shinkai as a director, but I found this one, with maybe outside of the ending, to really work for me, and I liked the whole story about finding your place in the world, because that's really what it was, like a story about, or at least that's what I kind of picked up from the story. And I mean, Makoto Shinkai is a great director. He's super talented. The animation is gorgeous, and I'd highly recommend people go see it when it goes through its Fathom and limited releases in January.
I definitely recommend that people see it for sure. So I'll have more coming out about it. I probably had impossibly high expectations because of how much I loved Your Name.
Right.
So that's something, but it's definitely more YA than like my friend who came with me who hadn't seen Your Name. She just kept saying, I feel like this is kind of for the Twilight group. And I think there's some truth to that, but it's still definitely worth seeing. So I'll say that as much.
No, definitely go see it. And just for the sake of seeing an original property in theaters, like if you can, I know Fathom events are kind of like G Kids where they don't always go everywhere. But yeah, definitely go see it. It's a great young adult romance.
Yeah. All right. So then we had the Angry Birds movie too. And I wasn't a big fan of the first Angry Birds. It had a really weird message about being more angry is better, which was weird. It's like they combined together anger and confidence. And I'm like, what? And then also a lot of the humor in that first one didn't work for me. I think that the plot for this movie is not the best. It's pretty generic, but I did laugh a lot. I thought it was really funny, and especially anytime it used music as a joke was hilarious, I thought. And so it won me over. I did get to interview the director. That was pretty fun. But yeah, I overall liked it. I feel like it was kind of my Hotel Transylvania 3. That summer, that movie was just like a fun, silly animated film to see, and I enjoyed it, even though I know it's not like the best. And I felt like kind of the same about this. It was just funny and made me laugh. It was a nice break in the summer. Paleo, what do you think about Angry Birds 2?
The complete opposite. So yeah, yeah. So like the whole thing with anytime I use music, I would just audibly groan. I was like, ah, because like that's a trope that I really don't like. They used it so often.
It did a lot. Yeah, it's true.
And I hate that I don't like this movie as much because I actually liked the first one like okay. But in this one, especially since when I saw that Thor Van Orman was directing it, and he made one of my favorite cartoons of the last decade, which was
Misadventures
of Flapjack. Yeah, which is a hilarious show, and I love the setting of that show. And with this, there were just like some jokes that were just not really hitting for me, and I don't know why. I guess my sense of humor was just very different compared to everyone else.
I found the film like super ambitious with its humor. It tried a whole lot of jokes.
Yeah, it did throw a lot at the screen.
And I knew it was going to be weird because of the director, and I was so happy that he got to direct a movie like this, and he just went all out, because this is one of those sequels that got made because the first one made money, even if it wasn't like the most well-liked of the bunch back in 2016. And you have to be careful of that, because this happened with The Nut Job, where nobody liked the movie, but it made a lot of money, so they greenlit a sequel, and then 3 years later it came out, didn't do well. And but yeah, I found the humor to be wildly creative. I loved a lot of the jokes. Like my favorite one was where Bomb had to like take out the guards, and then it cuts to them all having a beer.
Oh yeah, that was the best joke in the movie.
Yeah,
and like it wasn't afraid to be a cartoon. And sometimes I see this online where animation people are like, oh, why do cartoons like our anime films have to be so bouncy and stretchy? And it's just kind of like, well, that's a good thing. I mean, I know there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, but I found like I loved it, even though I agree the story wasn't all that great, and there were some parts where like the whole Josh Gad's character and his relationship with his sister and Red, I found that to be a little creepy, but that's just me.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think though we need to retire Lionel Richie songs as gags. I think because it's done. It's been done. No more.
Yeah. But he likes those royalties.
Yeah. So you're frown worthy on it, Paleo.
Yeah.
So I was definitely fresh on it. Would you be fresh on it then, Cameron?
Yeah, I would be.
Okay, good. All right. Then we had Abominable, and I honestly thought this movie would do a lot better than it did. I thought it would do really well in China. Now all these Chinese characters, and it was partly made by a Chinese studio, and I was really surprised that it didn't, take off there. But I thought this was a really sweet movie. Yes, we've seen this story very many times before of a teen or a child finding some kind of magical creature or dragon or yeti or whatever. We've seen it a lot, and definitely his powers just kind of were sort of a MacGuffin that was like good for helping out whatever they needed. So I get that. That's all true. But I still thought it had a nice heart to it. And I liked the friendship between the three characters, the lead characters, and just so many beautiful sequences. Like when they're kind of surfing on that wave of flowers. Like that was beautiful. And also I thought the music was so pretty. And it was such a sweet movie. to me. And I'm very mixed on DreamWorks comedies. A lot of them I don't like.
Right.
So yeah, this was a surprise for me. Pele, what do you think of Abominable?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I liked the message behind it, where it's about how even though you've lost, you can still take the time with the people you still have.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like a better message of loss, especially compared to Wonder Park
Yeah.
that came out this year. So I thought that was interesting because like the main character, the girl, is obsessed with taking this trip that she wanted to go on with her dad, but her dad's not around anymore. So like, you know, she still has her family around, but she's like obsessed with that. And you kind of see it towards the end how like she's accepting of like, oh well, he's gone now, like, and you should just like spend the time with the people that you still have while they're there.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a very sweet movie, and it does have a twist villain, so that's a little irksome. But I really liked, and I think a lot of people. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this. What's his name? The millionaire who wants the Yeti. Um,
Yeah,
I liked his character art because you can tell through like little visual nods and stuff.
yeah, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, I do find scenes like where he's just like, "Man, this is a beautiful tree. Cut it down so you can put it in my office." But then like when they're driving around, you see him kind of like look at this little mouse thing, and he smiles.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think this is one of DreamWorks' better films. I find the first third to be the most obnoxious because I just think the worst jokes are there, like the whole burping thing with the soda and the blueberry joke. And but it was just a great movie. I highly recommend people check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, then there was an anime film called Okko's Inn. And this movie, it's basically about this little girl who is orphaned, basically, and her, so she goes to live with her grandma in this inn, and she starts seeing these ghosts, and they have sort of a connection to her parents, and it's all kind of involving her grieving and her loss, and I thought this movie was really cute. It's definitely for little. I feel like it's for little kids,
Yeah.
and as opposed to other anime, which is more for adults. This is for like little children. It's a little slow. It was a little slow for me as an adult, but I think little kids will really enjoy it and think it's really cute. And so I liked it.
I once again, you can make like a little jar of quarters with this. I saw this last year at Animation is Film, and I liked it. I really loved it. It was a surprise for me, and yeah, you could tell by the designs that they're a little more family friendly, younger kid audience
Mm-hmm.
being like focused. But it's another like touching story about dealing with loss and then just like being helpful and helping out people in need, no matter the background. And like it's a very touching My Neighbor Totoro or My Miracle kind of story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's I loved it.
Yeah. Okay. Then we had the Addams Family, and this is another movie that I liked. Seemed like way more than everybody else. I thought that that they got that sort of dry humor, and I laughed quite a bit. And I kind of liked the whole plot of Wednesday kind of learning how to be sort of normal, and that making that sort of freaking everybody out. I think the whole story with the brother didn't really work. It was weird.
Yeah.
And I think that the animation wasn't the best, but I didn't hate it either. But you know, it looked low budget, I would say. It's not a perfect movie, but overall I enjoyed it. I don't know. Pele, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I was surprised that like so many people didn't like this as much.
Yeah.
Because it's Adam's family has been like around for a really long time. Um, and it just felt like another like adaptation to me. Though I do feel like they tried too many plots in the movie
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's a lot of like subplots that go on.
Mhm.
But I
That's
think
fair.
the one with Wednesday is probably the most interesting,
Yeah.
where she sort of becomes like a pastel goth.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I agree with you there. And speaking of music jokes, there was a really funny one in this movie, in my opinion. The whole "Everybody Hurts" whole REM sequence that made me laugh.
Oh yeah, with
Yeah.
what the butler Lurch. I forgot his
Yeah.
name. Yeah, I thought I understand a little bit of the disappointment because there's a lot of great dry dark humor with the franchise. Like the first live action film, um, basically had them pour hot tar or oil on top of some carolers, um, and there's some of that in this movie. Like at the beginning, when Morticia is putting on like eyeshadow and blush, it's coming from her parents' ashes.
Oh yeah.
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 And I love the voice cast, and I love that they went with the look of like the original comic strip. But yeah, this was animated by the same studios that did Sausage Party and 2017's The Star. So yeah, it doesn't really have that big of a budget, and you can kind of tell. And yeah, I agree with the both of you that there are too many plots, and but Wednesday was the MVP of the film.
Yeah. No. And this one actually did make a healthy profit. So that's a success
Yeah,
in a year
when you
weird
talk
year.
about 20 mil, it's not going to be that hard, unlike some of the other later films. But
Yeah.
still.
So there was an indie film that I also got to see yesterday in Marona's Fantastic Tale. And this movie, the visuals are really cool and the dog is super cute. I do think it would have been better as a short. It felt a little too stretched out for me as a feature film. I don't think there was enough story there, but
Yeah.
it was cute.
I saw put another quarter in the jar. I saw this one at Animation is Film this year, and it's such a vibrantly cool looking
Yeah.
animated film. Like I love all the little details. Like it's about for anyone who doesn't know, this is a story about a dog who uh dies at the beginning of the film, and she goes through her life and all the different owners she interacted with, and just how it's mostly about just like finding happiness in the world.
Yeah.
And it's a really touching movie. And
This looks really interesting.
Yeah, the
I just
animation
looked
is
up the some screenshots of it.
the animation is
yeah, like
really cool.
the gymnastics guy is very cool. He probably has the best animation, like, or just like the visual look. And then like later on when she's with the family and the old man kind of moves like a wind-up toy because he's old and his body's stiff. And there's a lot of details that I think are like great. And G Kids is going to be bringing this one over also. So
Do you agree though that it would have worked a little bit better as a short?
maybe I think yeah, probably in some areas, like they do definitely tend to stick around on certain sequences and characters too long. But I liked it. So.
Yeah. I mean, 2019 was the year for the dog movie, so I guess that's appropriate that we got an animated.
Yeah.
There's all these dog movies. Okay, so then we had Klaus, and I absolutely love this movie. Of course, I love Christmas movies. I love animated films and 2D animation. I loved the story. I thought it was going to be more like the Santa character in Rise of the Guardians, which I do also love. But it wasn't. He was more of a wounded character. He kind of reminded me of the dad in Song of the Sea. I loved the way that the movie used lighting as people changed and grew. and the lighting would start to change on them. I thought that was beautiful. It's my favorite movie of the whole year. I loved this movie, and because it really hit all of my boxes as far as things I like. And I think it'll be a new holiday film for me every year to watch Klaus.
Yeah,
And so I loved it. Pele, what do you think of Klaus?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Like I
Yeah.
watched it like 3 times, like within a small span.
Yeah.
But because at first it was just like the animation itself, because it's so impressive, the technology that they were able to make with this combining of 2D and this sort of lighting that looks three-dimensional.
Yeah.
And but the story itself and the characters are like really likable.
Yeah.
I think that if it didn't have that, it wouldn't be quite as like talked about as it is. Because Jesper's like a fun like main character where he's just sort of just full of himself at first, but then he just kind of comes around. I know a lot of people have compared him to Cusco from Emperor's New Groove.
He's very much a Cusco.
Yeah. And Klaus himself, I really like, and all the side characters too. And I also think that Margot, the little Sami girl, she's like one of the most adorable characters I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh God,
so cute.
Yeah, there was a behind the scenes look at this film, at animation of this film this year, and yeah, it's really cool. They basically made a 2D animated film and used all the texture and lighting effects for CGI to use on the 2D. And yeah, I've seen this film like multiple times already, and
I'm so jealous that you guys see it in the theater.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the first 14 minutes and then little clips here and there. And I went through all like the animation tests and like the rough animation and such. And
so they didn't show the whole film?
No, they didn't.
Interesting.
I wish it was, but you know, and I really like the villains, and I know they were more comedy villains.
Yeah.
But there's still like a sinister side to their ignorance and stubbornness to stay with tradition. That it's like, well, my parents hated their parents and such, and then it's just like there's something kind of scary about that. And
it kind of reminded me of like a meshing of Emperor's New Groove and Corpse Bride.
I could totally see that.
That.
And I just loved it. I thought it was so great, and so I'm hoping that it was sort of popular enough that maybe someday we'll get to see it I'll get to see it. They'll do a Fathom event or something. I get to see it in the theater because that would be really cool.
I hope they do that too, and I hope more of the studios kind of take note, because in its first month, Klaus was seen by 30 million people, and so I hope it shows that like, hey, we do want 2D animation, and we want. Like, you don't have to spend 100 million on it. You just have to spend at least like 40, 50 mil or so and get creative with it. And if anybody for some reason hasn't seen it, go see it.
Yeah. So then there's Playmobil, the movie. And it's interesting because I feel like this movie was probably obviously greenlit after the Lego movie. But I think that they probably quickly regretted it, because it's not like the Lego movies made a ton of money. If you're just looking at box office, after the first one, they've all been kind of disappointing as far as the box office. Even Lego Batman didn't do as well as you'd think it would do. And so I kind of wonder if they immediately sort of regretted greenlighting this. But it was not a successful movie. There were so many characters and so many supposed world building. The plot was going all over the place, and sometimes it's a musical. And there were like 5 different villains. And the animation was fine in my opinion, but it was a pretty big miss.
Yeah, it's a major mess. Of everything going on, and like I feel like they wanted to start with a live action portion because like, well, Lego Movie did it.
Yeah.
It just like seemed so blatant that they wanted to harp on the success of the Lego Movie,
Yeah. It
but
was
just
so
not
obvious.
understanding why it worked.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You know, even having like the different worlds and stuff, like the old West world and
Yeah.
are so similar to what they had in the Lego Movie, and trying to have this. I felt like basically the Daniel Radcliffe character was supposed to be kind of like your Batman in Lego Batman,
Yeah.
but not funny and not in it nearly enough. And
Yeah, the marketing lies about Daniel Radcliffe.
yeah. And it was just, the story was just because with the Lego Movie, you have this solid story leading you all the way through all these different lands and all these different worlds. And here, it was just like all over the place. And that weird Greek villain, like Roman or whatever it was, and like that was so cringeworthy. And then you had other villains, and it was really bad.
It's a mess, and this one also, I mean, big shock. Put another quarter in the jar. Had a troubled development. It originally like started in like pre-production, and it was going to get pitched around, and it was at first going to be at Sony, and it was supposed to be like started in 2014 and then released in 2017. But plans fell through, and then the original director went on to help direct Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And then
that was a good career choice.
Talk about dodging a bullet.
That was smart.
And then Open Road Films picked it up and funded it. Had like a budget of supposedly 40 mil, and it was finished. And then Open Road went bankrupt, and then STX picked it up, and it was the opening night film at the Annecy International Film Festival. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, the reception was not good, and apparently there were a few stories of people walking out mid-film, and and then of course it got released in the UK first in August, and it bombed. And then SCX, and they're not having the best year. They're struggling financially, so they kept a lot of their advertising in theaters, and of course the whole Daniel Radcliffe as the lead character was an absolute lie. And yeah, I didn't like this one, and I feel bad because the director and I think two of the writers used to worked at Disney, and the director was the head of animation for the first Frozen, and it's just a bummer because I could kind of see an idea working, and they have one joke that really works, and it's the one when Anya Taylor-Joy, I forgot her name, sorry, gets like warped into the Playmobil world, and she's like super stiff and she can't get up because of how clunky the toys are. And I think that's a really funny gag, but then they ruin that in-universe rule within seconds with her legs and arms.
Yeah, that's weird. Like with Lego, they actually like stick to what Lego can do.
Yeah.
Like most of the time.
It makes Playmobil look like any other movie, so it's like it doesn't have anything that makes it distinct, because even if you don't like Lego Ninjago or whatever, or like Lego Movie 2 as much, it's still distinctly Lego. There's
you know the funny thing, that whole thing where they're in the Coliseum and they're about to fight the T-Rex, and like the because that's also like shown in the trailer, where it comes out, I was like, oh, what's it gonna be? It seems like, oh, it's going to be something interesting. It's like, T-Rex, okay, I guess. But Ninjago did an even better, like, I'm gonna say something really nice about Ninjago. I love the freaking cat in that. I was like, oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a highlight for sure.
Yeah, that's the best joke. And the only things I found good about it was Addam Lambert as the Emperor Maximus, I think the villain's name is. Like, at least it sounded like he was having fun with the role. And if you get to ham it up a little, I think that's fine. And yeah, this movie's not doing well. Apparently, it's like one of the worst openings in like wide release, and it's in like the same vein as like Delgo and
Oh yeah, it did like even worse than Arctic Dogs this year.
Yeah. Oh, are we going to talk about Arctic
Yeah,
Dogs?
speaking of Arctic Dogs, that's our next one. So this was my least favorite movie of the whole year, and I just thought it was a failure on every front. It was the story wasn't good, the voice work was lazy, the jokes didn't land at all, the animation was terrible, and I just to me it's worse than like in my worst of the year list I have things like The Kitchen, which was the worst.
Yeah.
Terrible movie, things like that. But to me, this is even worse than that worst, because it's it's made for children and it gives them nothing. It's does nothing for their creativity. It does nothing for their self-confidence. It does nothing for them in any way. It's just like completely. It's giving them less than nothing. It's wasting their time, and children have such little time to develop their creativity and and you look at what great things can be done for children in something like Paddington or something like I mean at least something like Wonder Park or Ugly Dolls, flaws and all, have some message, have some creativity that
Right.
will hopefully inspire a young child. This is just nothing, and it was terrible. I absolutely hated it, and it's awful. And it's directed by the same person who did Spark: A Space Tale, which was
Oh.
one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life. It was terrible. And so I don't know, this director, not my favorite.
Maybe he'll get a good project sooner or later, but
Ooh,
nah, he's not getting them right now.
it was so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. You didn't see this, Bailey, right?
No, I just didn't even bother. I was like, oh, this is another Norm of the North.
Yeah. Like
No,
the animation is slightly better than Norm of the North, but
Yeah, it does look better than it.
but I don't know. I think Norm of the North is. I feel like it's maybe a little bit so bad it's good. Like there's little things that I would just because I can't believe they did that, and so I'm laughing at how terrible it is. This I didn't even have that. I mean, it's just nothing.
Yeah. At least with Norm of the North, it's fun to rip on it.
Yeah.
It's so nonsensical, and I know people are like, "Well, don't say lack of effort." There was no lack of effort, but there was kind of no effort put into Norm of the North, so it's just so lazy.
Yeah.
It's fun to make fun of. Arctic Dogs is just obnoxious. It's frustrating to sit through, and if it didn't have so many like Jeremy Renner, if you took him out, this thing probably would have gone straight to video because everyone else was not like nobody cares or like kids don't care who Heidi Klum is, and it's not like Alec Baldwin is like not familiar with limited or straight to video releases.
Was John Cleese all right in it?
Yeah, he's the like Adam Lambert in Playmobil. He's the only one who's kind of having fun with the villain role, and but yeah, like it's such like small stakes in it because it's not like I want to run my own delivery company. No, I just want to be a delivery dog. Okay, that's like and like it's one of those films and that like what you see in the advertising is accurate. That like, oh man, that smell, it's like the earth made a poopy or something. Like that line is actually in the movie. It is
it's such a bad movie.
It's my worst animated film of the year because like you said Rachel, at least Wonder Park had something to it. At least Ugly Dolls had something to it. Even at least Playmobil was at least like consistently okay, like mediocre. This one, no.
It's so bad. So all right, then we had Frozen 2, and I was pretty hyped about this. I love the original, and I was very satisfied with it. I've only seen it the one time, but I love the songs. I especially Lost in the Woods is like my new favorite anthem. I thought it was so hilarious. I was dying laughing. Liked the relationship between Anna and Elsa. I think it's a really strong dynamic. as somebody who has 3 sisters myself, I really relate to it. And I thought that it was funny. It was sweet. I thought it was pretty brave of them to do a story where the revelation about their parents is kind of not the best. And they're like, it was very untidy, I thought, which was interesting, and I liked it. And I loved the fact that Anna becomes the queen. That was awesome. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. We'll see how it holds up on multiple watches, but it lived up to my expectations for the most part. There are a few flaws, but I really liked it. What do you think of Frozen 2, Pelu?
Not that. Because I have a lot of problems with Frozen 2. Like, first of all, something that I really didn't like in the first Frozen, and that I extra don't like here, is Kristoff. I don't like him as a character. I don't know what it is.
I can kind of see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't like Lost in the Woods? Oh no!
No, I didn't.
No, it was so
like I said
funny.
in my review. Like I said in my review, my theater was silent when that happened. Like nobody laughed.
Oh no!
I had a few laughs in my theater.
Oh, we were dying. It was just a really positive screening. We were laughing. So it's like all of a sudden it's like this Chicago thing. Are you Speedwagon?
Yeah, because like his whole plot line, I was like,
No, he gets a short end of this.
Yeah, but Olaf, however, I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that was fun.
Because a lot of people complained about him in the first movie, but I thought he was fine.
Yeah.
The songs I think are good, though. I think I like Elsa's 2 songs the most out of all of them. And for as far as like them finding out their
history,
I guess their grandparents or their grandfather is like, I don't know, it felt sort of like a nothing villain to me, because he's literally not there. And the logistics of everything didn't make sense. Like, they went to travel up north, and then in seconds, Elsa gets to Arendelle because of the tidal wave. It's like, what? Like, and
yeah, there was some stuff like that for sure.
Yeah,
that's true. I'll admit that.
Yeah, to me, I liked it. Like, I went to see it twice just to kind of get a grounded feeling about the overall film, and I liked the idea of the story. And it is kind of funny to think like, oh, it's a Disney film. What's the imposing conflict? Genocide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and I think that's why I wasn't too bummed about the villain, because I think once again it's about Elsa, it's about self-discovery. I will say I did not like the ending. At the very least, I did not like how it was executed. Mm-hmm. I did not mind Anna being queen, and I did not mind Olaf being brought back to life. Sorry, spoilers in retrospect. But I feel like if they let the kingdom get destroyed by the tidal wave, I think, and because it's founded on genocide. That's like the whole point. The point that I think they were leading up to, and they were going to let the kingdom die, but I mean nobody in it was going to die. And they were going to like rebuild on new ground and such. But then I'm wondering if a higher up caught wind of this and they said like, oh no, you can't have that. We're Disney, we can't be morally gray. And it's just like, it was a little frustrating. But I did love Into the Unknown. I liked Show Yourself and Lost in the Woods.
Yes. Yeah. Hello, Lost in the Woods.
I like that kind of music, so that's my kind of thing. And I loved Olaf. I think Olaf has been consistently the best Disney side character or like comedy relief.
Mhm.
because they do something, and I think part of it is Josh Gad. And there's like a subtlety to him at points. Like you kind of don't realize how funny it is until you listen to his dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love when I was like, I don't even know Samantha.
yeah, that part was actually improv, and they kept that in.
Yeah.
And then like when he's getting carried off by Sven, it's just like I'm going to go talk to my reindeer about family issues.
Well, the first one, he really matters in a way that most sidekicks don't.
Yeah.
To the whole plot, which I really appreciated. I don't think it's as good as the first one.
No, it's another lightning in the bottle situation.
Yeah, but I still definitely really enjoyed it, and but I guess my main critique actually of it is that I felt like the side characters were and the new characters were underused.
Oh yeah.
I mean, somebody like the Honey Marin, I think was her name.
Yeah.
Hardly you see her at all, and you'd think from the publicity she was a pretty big character, but she's really not.
Yeah.
And so things like that, where it felt like, oh, you're just introducing these new characters just to sell toys and stuff.
I think a little bit of it is to expand on the universe of Frozen, but I do
And
think
to start a TV show, just like Tangled.
Yeah, like Tangled. Yeah, I think that's probably what they're going to do next, or they might do a third movie. But yeah, the side characters like the guards and the natives who got stuck in the woods, were definitely underdeveloped. Even though like Sterling K. Brown's character has a little like character moments here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with that.
So it was definitely still smile worthy for me.
Yeah,
I don't know, Paleo, would you give it fresh, or would you? How did you feel?
I mean,
you're more mixed on it.
It's definitely better than a lot of the other things I saw this year.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, there you go. All right, we're almost done. So then we had Spies in Disguise. This is the last big theatrical release, and I liked it. I thought Will Smith was really good for this part, and I thought it had some nice messaging for kids of trying to use nonviolence to solve problems, and that was an interesting message. I mean, I'm really rooting for Blue Sky. I have a feeling this movie is not going to do very well, but I liked it overall. I really didn't. I wish that he hadn't turned into a bird. I didn't really like that. Less bird stuff for me. The bird humor, everything with the bird, I wasn't a huge fan of. I wish it had just been a spy story. I think it would have been way better. But still, overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Spies in Disguise, the funny thing is I was disappointed that he wasn't a bird as much because it felt like they wanted to get him out of the bird situation as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But because I mean, I guess I'm biased because I love birds and stuff.
Yeah.
But
No worries.
yeah, with Tom Holland's character reminds me so much of Fluttershy from My Little Pony.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And I thought he was great. I was surprised at how well Tom Holland did.
Yeah.
And I really like the message of pacifism in the film. And you could sort of see it with part of the villain too, where it's sort of the result of doing the opposite of pacifism.
Yeah, it's the consequences of Will Smith's character to the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't see a bit more of the villain in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I think if we did like some kind of like flashback thing to where he had a confrontation with the villain beforehand, I think that would have been fleshed him out a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I saw this one recently and I loved it. I think it's my favorite Blue Sky film next to the Peanuts movie. And I have another like conflicted feelings for Blue Sky because I feel like they have the right ambition as a studio, but they don't have the polish. And
right.
I feel like with stuff like Ferdinand, you really see that because Ferdinand has such a mature part to it. but then it's like, oh wait, we have to be a family film, so we have to add goofier elements. And I feel like they dialed back on the goofier elements with Spies in Disguise, even though they still have a lot of good, like, goofy humor, and they play well with the spy like gimmicks and such. And I loved the I actually liked what they did with the pigeon, like, side characters. Like, they gave them a lot of personality without them speaking,
Yeah.
and I think those were my favorite parts. And I liked Will Smith and Tom Holland's chemistry, and like you guys have said, I think the passive versus the, like, fighting fire with fire was very well, like tackled. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping with Blue Sky now getting some Disney and Pixar heads to help run the studio, that they can keep getting better, because I feel like they are getting better. They're not going to do any more Ice Age films. And
Please no.
yeah. I think the emotional core could have been a little tighter, and I agree that the bird gimmick of Will Smith was a little overplayed in the marketing. However,
Yeah.
I think this is, like I said, this is a blast, and I hope people go see it, because I don't want anything bad to happen to Blue Sky under Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Blue Sky. I think that they have been consistently really ambitious, except for the Ice Age movies. Something like Epic, maybe a flawed film, but I still like it. I think it has heart
Oh
and
yeah,
and
I
is
agree
so
with that.
beautiful. So I really hope that Disney doesn't dump them, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
I think they're going to be okay. They're just taking a few years to make the new one, so I'm sure there's going to be, like, a little adjusting and such. But I think Ferdinand getting an Oscar nom, no matter how much I did not care for that to happen, kind of helped them, because I think
Yeah.
otherwise there would have been, like, a little more worry that it's like they'll just strip all the talent and put them in the Pixar and Disney.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Well, this is the last one we have to talk about. Is I Lost My Body, and I kind of forgot about it. So I haven't watched it yet. But Cameron, you got to see it?
Yeah, I saw this one not at Animation as Film. It was playing at the same time as White Snake. So, but I did get to see it on a theater screen during Fantastic Fest that happens here in Austin, Texas. And this is the big foreign animated film that's getting a lot of hype around festival goers, and it was one of the big winners at Annecy and one of the big winners at Animation as Film. How do I put this? Because I think it's a really well done movie. I just think one half of it is better than the other half, and the half that's better is the stuff with the hand. Like, if you haven't seen, if anybody here hasn't seen the trailer, it's about a disembodied hand that tries to find its owner, and then you also follow the owner of the hand that leading up to that point. And it's a lot about, like, when life gets you down, you just have to keep going. You don't have to stay funneled in this, like, lifestyle because of something that happened. But I found the human aspect to be the weaker part, only because some elements feel kind of stalkerish, especially with the two leads, human leads. But it's a very unique movie. I think, I'm glad it exists, and it's written by the guy who did like Amelie and such. So expect a weird movie. And
oh yeah, see, it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. So, and it's not really made for kids, so don't watch this with kids. I mean, granted, a disembodied hand may tell you otherwise, but yeah, I definitely think people should see it. I think it was a little overhyped, but that's just me.
All right, very good. So you haven't seen it, Paleo?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I do have it on my list on Netflix though.
So there we go. We did it. We went through the whole year. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this. This was really nice of you. And so, Paleo, where can people find you?
I'm Paleo Steno on YouTube, and I do videos on there, and also on Twitter as Paleo Steno. I talk about the stuff that I see and everything. So yeah, on those two sites.
definitely check it out. And Cameron, where can people find you?
Like I said, I do written reviews, and you can find me on camseyeview.biz, and you can find me on Twitter at camseyeview. And yeah, so that's where you can find me.
Great. Yeah, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So make sure to check that out. All my crazy animated reviews on there.
Awesome.
Check that out. And yeah, and also I have the Hallmarkies podcast, so check that out as well. And thank you guys for listening. And let us know your thoughts about these different films and the year as a whole. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And consider becoming a patron of my channel. I really appreciate that. And then also we have the merch store, so check that out. And it's just really fun. And so thank you so much for coming and being my guests on this episode. And we'll have to talk about 2020 before you know it. So,
Yeah.
so thanks again, and we will we'll talk again soon. So bye everybody.
Bye.